Hey, good evening, Sharad.
I am
It's such a
excited and
pleasure
looking
meeting you.
forward. This
Hey,
is
good
great.
evening, Sharad. Yes, good
Good
evening,
evening, sir.
everybody. So good to have you here, Sharad.
I am
It's such a
excited and
pleasure
looking
meeting you,
forward. This is
gentlemen.
great.
Yes, and welcome to everybody who's joined us for this live chat. It's the first of our series of Krayon live chats. We have recently launched the Krayon app, and Studio on Krayon is
I
our
am excited
learning
and looking
part
forward.
of
This is
the
great.
app. And today we're kicking off our Studio series with the first live chat. And we decided that the best thing to do is to get somebody who's meaningful, impactful, someone we know really well, and you know, and that's probably one of the reasons why we decided to go with Sharad. And what better way to start this live off? And let me just, Shruti, if you can just help me with the
Instagram.
Instagram. Yes, I'll just give me a
I'm waiting
moment.
as well.
Yes, we're live on Insta as well. So Sharad, I'm going to add you there as well. So if you can.
Yes. Perfect.
Okay,
I
here we go.
joined.
Have we been added there? Yes,
Perfect.
I can see
I
you as
think.
well. Sharad. So perfect. So we set with both. Yes, let me just set my angle. Voila, all of it seems to work and technology in place. And let's hope that the internet holds on for the next half an hour. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first edition of the Krayon Studio Live. And in this session, we're going to have a peek into the mind of a change maker. And during the course of the next half an hour, we're going to try and understand what makes change makers. And this session is particularly, special for me because I've seen this change maker when he was a little kid, and I have a surprise for him lined up in a few minutes. So let's begin by asking Sharad, how's the lockdown treating you, Sharad?
It's been great. I had been traveling all across the country most of the months, but February 29th onwards, I have been at one place. This for the first time in a long time that I've been at one place for so long. So it's been very peaceful, given me a lot of time to reflect. And the best and the most exciting part is that Wizkids has returned, and this time in a bigger and better manner. So yeah, this is basically my lockdown and quarantine, how it's looking like.
Super. So let's begin at Dexterity. You do something which is really simple, but yet very important. And somehow, as educators, as young students, we don't seem to give it a lot of importance. At Dexterity, you are connecting young people to opportunities. And Sharad, I'm going to allow you to tell us a little more about Dexterity. Very long ago, when I was in school, I attended a workshop. And in the workshop, I probably heard one of the best definitions of luck. Luck, according to me, is defined as the meeting point of your alertness to the opportunities passing by. And if you were not aware or alert for the opportunities, the world outside thinks we are unlucky. And the one who grabs the opportunity turns out to be lucky. So you've been one of those lucky ones who was aware of the opportunities. And we'll talk about the wonderful journey that you had, both from an education and as entrepreneur standpoint. So let's start off. Give us an insight, a quick one into what does Dexterity do?
So I think what you heard as a kid, or probably at that workshop, that is exactly the point that we talk about. We believe that talent is equally distributed all across the world. It is opportunity that is not. So there might be a child who is a gifted painter or an artist or somebody who wants to become an engineer or is a good problem solver. But if that child does not know that these opportunities exist for him or her, then that child misses out. One of the most important examples is, and now, there can be a counter argument. People can say, oh, these are times of Google and our children know everything. You can just look for an opportunity. But if you look at it in the field of sciences, for that matter, NASA Space Settlement Contest is like one of the largest competitions in the world. Like if you win it, you are on the front page of newspapers, you are on prime time. And it turns out 952 is the maximum number of entries that NASA has ever received for that particular competition.
And that's like the number of children who participate only in a city like Patna in writing event.
Right, or in postcard making, if you basically look at it. So the thing is, the question is about same gravity, same solar system, same textbook science for standard 8th and 9th. The problem is not that our kids are not hardworking. It's not that they are not talented. The problem is they do not know that these opportunities exist. So Dexterity basically starts out at that point, that let's connect our kids with opportunities. But the second part is equally important. That is, many of our children do not have, parents at home who necessarily are college graduates or even high school graduates for that matter. Many kids are first generation school goers or college goers. Even if they get connected to these opportunities, can we build them in a manner that they actually are able to exercise their mental faculties in the best manner possible? Can they engage with these opportunities, make best use of it? So then Dexterity continues to build platforms like Dexterity School of Leadership and Entrepreneurship, Dexterity to College program, so that once children are, 10, 11, 12 years old, they get into the system through Dex Connect, get connected to opportunities. They continue to have, a staircase model sort of a thing, so that whatever they were interested in, passionate about, they were participating in, they can continue to move forward in that direction. So that is largely what Dexterity is doing. In one sentence, that has been my journey as well till the age of 12, didn't go to school, continue to find out about these opportunities from newspapers. Once I came to school, I started participating in everything, and Wizkids was probably one of the largest things that I participated in. And doors continued to get unlocked for me. And it turned out that at the age of 16, through a Wizkids project, and I probably will get into those details at some point, but when you used to win Wizkids at your city finals, you didn't just, get a crown or a sash and then you get to go to Bangalore for the national finals. We used to get a project, and Dexterity was a project idea that I picked up actually at my second Wizkids. The first Wizkids victory, I went to 25 government schools, conducted a survey, wanted to do something about it, and again, couldn't figure it out. Next year, I came in with the idea of Dexterity, and then 12 years later, we are having this conversation, and the gentleman on the screen is a person who I have greatly admired and received a lot of inputs and mentoring from. So, so that is basically my journey as well, getting connected to opportunities, then realizing that more people need to have these doors unlocked for them.
Fantastic. And, before I move on, Sharad, can I just make a quick request on your Insta phone? Can you just reduce the volume? I think there's a slight echo.
Okay.
So just reduce that volume. And yes, absolutely bang on what you just mentioned about the fact that, these opportunities which are actually out there, most of the students are not aware of them. And when we talk about opportunities, and the other simple one that I've always wondered, why is it that schools have not looked at some of these opportunities seriously? And these opportunities, like you mentioned, there are a few schools who pick them up, right? Very few schools pick them up. And that's probably one of the reasons why, Dexterity and the need for Dexterity is so relevant in our times. Because I personally believe that the number of opportunities that knock on the doors of the schools are so large. And yet, I would say most of them get away from the gate, and some of them land up to the principal and then they get knocked off. What the educators in this case don't realize a lot of times is that this could have been a game changer or life changer for some student, right? And very rightly said, because I've lived a large part of my life trying to be, providing these opportunities for schools. And when I started off my career, it was, absolutely unheard of for schools to, in a large manner, like they participated in Wizkids. And, I used to go physically, Sharad, school to school. And you can name the city in this country, and I will tell you the location of the areas because of the school. Oh, you have DAV in Khagol, or you have.
DAV Khagol. I cycled to the school.
Yeah, you need to get out of the city, or you need to go to the international school in. So I know the locations based on the schools, but the point that I'm making is that I physically went to schools, and I've had all kinds of challenges trying to convince a principal. So my question to you, and I mean that was the initial days, and after a point we became so big that we had to actually tell no to more schools to participate in Wizkids, and I'm so glad and that we have come now in the online version, because it now opens up the opportunity for absolutely any talent to, because that's the beauty of the digital world. In our peak, we were doing 36 cities for Wizkids, and with the online cities, 50. But now it allows us to go to the remotest parts of the country. Having said that, let me come back to my question. And my question was, why is it that schools in general and educators in particular not allow these opportunities to go to the student? What has been your understanding? I've had 20 years of experience. Let me hear yours. What's been yours? Because yours is more the heartland of the country.
That is exactly right. Today, the amount of invitations I receive from schools and colleges to come and speak on their campus it's an overwhelming number, more than.
And I also remember the time when you started off, you were actually thrown out of schools as well.
Exactly. That's the reason why I was talking about it. So, close to 40 to 60 institutions in a month would invite, which is an overwhelming number. We have to pick and choose where I'll speak and where I cannot. But it turns out in 2008, I literally used to cycle to schools because, petrol for motorcycles or somebody who had a driving license, all that was a problem. And there are two problems with schools for everybody who's watching, and I know many.
I know there's a lot of educators, because a lot of my friends happen to be educators, so they're going to be here watching.
And there are a lot of young people who. There are a lot of young people also who are here who probably need to hear this. There are two things about schools. The first one is it is based on the rotation of our planet. So that is about time. If you go around 6 a.m., they are having their morning assembly. So they'll ask you to come after the morning assembly. If you go in the first half, they'll tell you that the first half is usually busy, come after lunch. If you go in the second half, they'll say it's pretty close to the dismissal. How about you come in the evening when the principal sits down? And if you go in the evening, then they tell you that morning assembly is the best time to see the principal. This is the rotation of the planet. The revolution of the planet, for that matter, around the sun. If you look at it, in the month of April, if you approach a school, they say the session has just started. Come next month. In May, they'll tell you it's time for summer break. So come after summer break. Right after summer break, July or August, they'll tell you we are busy with patriotic singing and Independence Day. September, they'll have their half yearly. October, November, that becomes Durga Puja, Diwali time. Then December, they say it's time for winter break. You come in January. You go in January, they'll say it's very close to February. That is when our final exams. So you come around March. March is board exam. April, the cycle starts again. This is not my experience at one school. This is like something that I've concluded just speaking with so many principals. So early days, it was very challenging.
I feel bad for the children, definitely. And I feel sad for a lot of educators, but I also know of a hell of a lot of educators who are so outstanding and very open to opportunities. But I would say the larger number of educators go by, you use rotation and revolution, they go by something I call the timetable. They make a timetable depending on which school you are, whether it's April or May. They make a timetable and they live with the timetable. And the timetable almost becomes a gospel truth. Today, for example, I was just talking to my social media team in the evening, and I actually told them to throw away the timetable and be responsive rather than being regimental, because the world that we're living in needs to get to becoming more responsive. So we planned to do something in the month of July, but here's an opportunity. Can I evaluate that opportunity basis, whether is it better than what I have, or is it going to add some more value to my children, or a different kind of an opportunity? And that should be the reason why something gets rejected, not because it's already been in the timetable. So anyways, coming back from that whole rotation and revolution that you brought in, interesting perspective. I can share stories and horror stories about how I've been treated in the initial days when I started off. But thankfully, like you rightly mentioned, I just can't thank the schools and the students, especially the principals and educators, enough for the kind of love and affection. But I genuinely believe that people like me who establish themselves get the love and affection. There are a lot of people who are trying to do something. And over here, I have a disclaimer. I'm not talking about a funded company that has, oodles of dollars that's been invested in them, and they are trying to push in their products into your school. But there are a lot of young Sharads out there or Sultans out there who are trying to make a difference genuinely. And that's the word which I would like to define Sharad with. I think I've known you now for 13 years, right? And we've shared at some points of time some very, very close conversations that we've had. We've had conversations in Bangalore or Patna, our conversations in Boston. In all of these conversations, what I've seen about you, Sharad, almost to a point of being artificial, you're very genuine, right? The reason why
That's probably the best compliment I've ever received.
Yeah, I would say that it's an absolute compliment, because for some people it looks artificial because the world we live in is absolutely, I don't know the English equivalent, but the Hindi word is matlabi. The world is very matlabi. The world always is looking to figure out what's in it for me, and that's the reason why they're trying to do something for you. And here you are, and that's one of the things that I've always seen a reflection of myself in you is the genuineness and the horse-blinded focus of your passion to make this happen, right? Where did you get this from? And what motivates you to keep doing this?
I think coming from somebody who I have admired so much, it means a lot to me. For me, I think it's a lot of people do ask me that there has to be something in this for you, and I have a feeling that I do not have a problem being called selfish. If my self is, slightly larger than what kind of clothes I want to wear, what kind of food I want, what do I want for myself, it is basically first 12 years I've lived in small towns and villages of Bihar. I have seen how poor and how terrible, access to opportunities or basic education in general has been. And the problem is you do not know which dishwasher in Humphrey Davy's lab would go on to become Michael Faraday. We cannot just celebrate the stories of, APJ Abdul Kalam and Sachin Tendulkar. We have to really build a system of platforms that allows any child to become a Kalam, as opposed to, look at an exception and then celebrate that for a long time and ask a lot of kids that person could do it, so you can also do it. So this is something that I am very, very passionate about. And I know this is something that has been repeated many times, but what if, the cure to cancer is trapped inside the mind of a young girl child somewhere at a government school in Bihar or in Rajasthan? If we cannot connect that child to the best opportunities in science or in problem solving, and
hey, Sharad, I'm stopping you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you just? I think you've logged off your Insta. Can you just get back there if you don't mind, please?
Oops. The separate device thing is probably a problem. Chief, can you keep looking at it? Okay. Can you just join back next? So just request it. So you'll have to probably monitor that. Okay. Yeah. You can take a chair here.
All right.
But you have
So can you just repeat that, please, the part when you were talking about?
Yeah, so basically what I was saying was that it is not enough to talk about an APJ Abdul Kalam and tell every child that, oh, he was also, from a remote area, not very well off family that he came from and stuff as that. What we need to do is, instead of these examples being accidents of our system, they need to become results of our system. We have to connect that girl child in a corner of our country with the best opportunities, the best platform. And when she's ready to transition to college, we should not be afraid of, that, oh, should she prepare for an MIT or a Harvard? Why not? So that is something that I'm very, very passionate about. I realized it at a very young age that alone I cannot do all the dreams and ideas that we have for the world when we are very young. Alone, I'm never going to be able to accomplish that. How about we activate somebody in journalism, somebody in medicine, somebody in engineering? And there is something that in 2008, I remember on the Wizkids stage, you told us some of, the best prodigies, as the local media would call it, at Horlicks Wizkids City Finals in Patna. 10 of us, I know somebody had met the President of India by then. All of us were head boys, head girls of our schools. You said something very interesting. I do not know if you remember that. You said that, guys, all of you are very talented. And remember, it will not matter how talented you were if your talent does not matter in somebody else's life. What you do with this talent is going to have an impact on lives of others, and that is going to make your talent valuable. But the message that I did receive, and I think I've mentioned it to you at some point in probably 2015 in Boston when we met, that stayed with me. That stuck with me. That me being talented or skilled or you do not want to maintain a LinkedIn resume for yourself saying these are my skills and this is what I can do well. The question is who benefits because you do well. Can you solve a problem for somebody? Can you open a door for someone? So that is largely what.
Because I recollect very distinctly, this was in 2001 when we were designing the personality contest. And remember, before that, personality contests were predominantly limited to colleges, and you didn't have too many personality contests in schools. But then we felt the need to showcase some of the best student young leaders through the Wizkids event, and it was called the Wiz Team. And when we were designing it, I was absolutely clear that if anyone's got talent, they can speak, they're good leaders. But at the end of the day, somehow our systems, both at home as well as the schooling systems, makes us very selfish. And if you've got a talent, it has to be meaningful for the world outside. And believe me, I've done this for 20 odd years in my life. And today it is more important than ever before because of the whole digital world that we are living in. We are making selfish creatures, absolutely. And we celebrate selfishness. We as a society, we are absolutely celebrating selfishness. We're looking at some absolute flimsy talents out there, like a Lingo Leela would get a few million views, and this kid would have done some remarkable work. No one's even giving a word of acknowledgement. So from that sense, that's been the goal. And what gives me a lot of pride is having conversations with people like you, because this is what I worked on. Probably there are other entrepreneurs who's made a hell of a lot more money than what I have. I can't complain. I've made enough for myself. But I think what I have earned in terms of giving, I wouldn't use the word give back, but inspiring or, nudging. I wouldn't even use the word inspiring. I would say nudging the young people. Because today, Sharad, I know of the ones that I'm in touch with, because there've been over 1.5 million to 2 million students who would have participated in Wizkids in 24 years of its existence, and innumerable actors and writers and entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs, and a lot of them remember this, and I hope educators and students who are listening to this understand the fact that what they're giving in school is extremely important. There's no two ways about it. We can have a different debate about it. Both Sharad and me have some very pertinent views about what's being taught in school. Both of us today have an authority to talk about it because I've been with a lot of curriculum development for HRD and advising the Chintan Shivers. I've done all of that, but that's for a different debate. But when it comes to giving children, I'm going to end this section, and before I move on to the next one, I believe the goal of a parent, the goal of an educator, the goal of a school is not to educate a child. Their goal and objective should be to provide them with opportunities, to provide them with an atmosphere, a space where children can learn. Children don't learn when they are not in spaces that they enjoy. So these opportunities, in fact, I've published many papers in international journals about how participating in simple activities like a debate or a speaking or dancing or painting can actually transform the life skills of children. So I'm absolutely thrilled on two things, and I'm going to end this section. One is the fact that you've stayed true to the purpose. Two, your purpose is so simple and so relevant. You're connecting students to opportunities which are out there. And I hope that more schools open their doors to more opportunities. Remember, your school strength is a few thousand students sometimes. And even if that opportunity matters to that one child, I think it deserves your school doors being open to those opportunities. Whether it is a big one like an event for NASA, or it's a small one where somebody wants to do some garbage collection drive. These could be transformational. So great, Sharad. I promised in the beginning of this chat that I am going to have I have a surprise for you, right? So here's the surprise. Let me just try and move my. Oh yes, I got that. So here's my surprise. Let me just start off with this first. This is a surprise. So it's going to be. I did a little bit of homework to. I mean to get. Uh, okay, here. Okay. So that's the year 2008, Sharad. And you are taking part in the
So I was
talent
not
show.
on the screen when that
So
came.
for all of you who've
That's right. That's right.
yeah, so for all of you who want to know what Wizkids, the national finance was, there used to be outbound activities, and there used to be activities where we would test them on 40 different parameters over those 4 days that they spent with us, and that's how we've had them. And Sharad, if that was the speaking round, this is how it ended. Let me just show this to you. And that's the whole bunch, the cohort of Wizkids that participated in Wizkids in the year 2007. I can distinctly remember there are kids from Pakistan, there are kids from Nepal, there are kids from Sri Lanka. In fact, years later, we even added kids from the UAE. Those are two of the best students from each one of those cities from across the country. And each one of them today is grown up. They're all young men. Sorry, Sharad, I can't call you a boy anymore. Young men and women, and yeah, this is where you landed up. And I have one more, and this is something will bring back a lot of memories for you. This is you winning the round in Patna. This is the year 2008 on stage. I think only my hand you can see that's covering Rajiv Soni, and that's another friend of mine, a reporter from the Times of India. Uh, yeah, I think Rajiv also went on to be a guide and a mentor to you over a period of time. Rajiv used to be with the Tatas those days, Tata Steel. So yeah, Sharad, it's been interesting. I hope that surprise was a good one. Let me just put you back there.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I looked at each one of those pictures and thank you so much. I think this could have been one of the best surprises and gifts. This is brilliant, especially that Pegasus picture uh, where I have the, when we are doing the outbound activities, number 10. Oh, that's great. It's brilliant.
Yes. So now let me get back to the whole piece of how do I get this thing off the photograph? Okay, knocked it off. Cheryl is using technology and two or three different technologies at the same time. Okay, so this is what we've done, Sharad. Wizkids for almost 20 years was an opportunity for any kind of talent to be, to showcase. And, we introduced through Wizkids events, like I remember, and I love the fact that we introduced fashion designing, fashion shows. We introduced new, Antakshari as a music, as an inter-school competition. It wasn't a big one then. We introduced things like face painting. I've had school principals who used to ask me, "Oh, we're going to send our children for all those events, but not for Antakshari and for face painting." I've heard those things. And, I recently met an influencer from Calcutta, and she's pretty big. She's got like three-fourths of a million followers on Insta. And I was chatting up with her, and she said, "Sir, you have no idea, but I used to participate in Wizkids." I said, "Yeah, thank you very much." And she used to be a participant for the face painting competition. And she's like a massive influencer. And that's where her entire journey started off. So never write off no talent is big or small. And I think everything needs to be recognized. So this year, Sharad, what we did was we brought back Wizkids. And I thought this was important to talk about today and seek your thoughts on the fact that this is going online is not because of COVID. The reason why we spent more than a year today to build the Krayon platform, it's probably one of the best built platforms out there. The reason why we built this particular platform, it's on the Krayon app, and it's all in video format because that's what children love. On this particular platform, there is Wizkids, and Wizkids is going to happen. Just get that going. Right. So Wizkids is going to be happening on the Krayon Live platform, and everything is being explained in the form of a video. And everything is something that they're going to be sending in the form of a video because that's the next best thing you can do. And even in future, if we don't do this event on ground physically, children in the remote parts of the country, and what excites me is we've got a school from Nagaland participating, which we've never had in Wizkids before. Because now the online medium allows us to participate, and rural schools can participate. In fact, there are some foundations that we're talking to, and we will also have a lot of rural kids participating. So I think the digital medium allows for us to reach out to a lot more people, make it a lot more democratic. So what I've appreciated about you, Sharad, and that's something that I have to learn, and I have to learn to be better at it, is that you're fantastic when it comes to the way you've handled your social presence. And you're one of the few people that I know who's not a politician and who's not a performer or a show-off. Either you need to put them in those categories. If you don't have talent, I call you a show-off. And if you have a talent, I call you a performer who's actually done really well in the digital media. So tell us your thoughts on what do you think about Wizkids going digital, and what has been your learning on the digital space?
Oh, I think it's absolutely brilliant, and especially so for our young people now that Wizkids is online, it has gone digital. Something I have seen working at Dexterity all these years is 2008 through 2014, we faced some problems where any platform that was even slightly online in nature, like if schools had to send in an email, there was a problem. Like schools did not have as much access, students did not have as much access. But in the last 5-6 years, we have seen, like as you mentioned, Nagaland, I was so pumped when you said that, because our young people in Northeast, what Wizkids has achieved, I think, Northeast, West, South of the country, even in the smallest towns, something like that is needed for the Northeast, and I have personally visited Northeast quite a bit, interacted with students there. And what I'm seeing in recent days is that because of internet access, there is a place called Majuli in Assam, which is an island if you look at Brahmaputra River, that is like a point. Even there are kids who are disconnected today. And that pumps me up because these children, just because they are in remote areas, largely disconnected, they also need to be on the mainstream. A kid from Nagaland should be able to compete and collaborate with a kid from New Delhi. And I think that is something that Wizkids did for us in a very, residential setting once we would come to the South Asian finals or the national finals. And it allowed us to meet with 2,000, 3,000 young people at the packed auditoriums where the city finals happened. Now the whole world is an auditorium for our young people, thanks to Wizkids and Krayon. And I think in last 5-6 years, I've seen the level of digital engagement that has gone up for young people. And so it is absolutely brilliant. I think one time in one of my advisory meetings with you, where you would give me inputs, ask me questions, you had said something very important where would you rather go? Build something, let people find you, or go where people are. I think at a very larger level, a significant portion of the world now is on the World Wide Web, is using digital platforms. And that is the reason why Wizkids is going digital. It is going where people already are, irrespective of the socioeconomic background that they come from. Like Wizkids has been an equalizer as an inter-school competition. It was not a competition for, the rich schools or the international schools or the world schools alone. It was a competition for any school that had a set of students who were willing to participate or compete. And my Instagram phone locks out sometimes. I apologize for that. So Wizkids was a big equalizer. Yeah.
We understand the internet connections in our country, whether it's Patna or Bangalore, we all face the same problems these days. There was a time when Bangaloreans boasted that we were better than Patna, but with the internet age, we're terrible.
Yep. So Wizkids was a big equalizer, whether you came from a school there where the school fee was a few hundred rupees or a few thousand, whatever it was. Now, internet is as big an equalizer. And with that, the access that our young people can have to the platform, and I think the best thing about Krayon now is that they can also take master classes, they can also learn on the app. So I think that is brilliant, because one of the things I have very strongly believed in at Dexterity is, preparation material should be made available to young people. They should have an opportunity to look at it, what is happening, something that was done last year, something like that. Because many kids are participating for the very first time, and as much as it is, a lot of fun to put yourself out there, having a little bit of exposure, some experience, and I think that is something that is happening now on Krayon app. So I think it's brilliant. The country is ready, both for a digital outreach of a platform like this and for Wizkids to return on the digital format.
Picking up 2 points from what you just said, Sharad. The first one is it's absolutely imperative that we as educators or as students pick up the ability to communicate, to involve and engage on the digital medium. And I have been talking about this for 15, 17 years. I started a .com company in 2000. I started a teacher platform 2008, right? And I even many times, and every time I realized that schools, there's this concept which is called the smart class. Do you remember the smart class? Yes. And I had written an article called "The Teacher Killed the Smart Class." Because and because they were not willing to change. I am so glad COVID happened. I'm so glad we got locked up, because one of the things that's happened is that the teacher has now gone digital. I'm going to see a couple of things happening in the next couple of years. And one of them is that it's not just the few big brand names who run coaching and tutorial classes who are good teachers. There are outstanding superstars in every school. And now we will see them out there, because when you teach digitally, why are you, a lot of schools still, I find them so selfish. All schools are using the digital medium to only teach their own students. They don't realize that the digital medium was meant to teach the whole goddamn world. And, I have actually met, because I've been inviting school principals in the past few days, there are group schools with 3 schools and 4 schools. Even within them, they are not sharing the teacher. This is that branch teacher, she will only teach students of that branch. I think the educators really need to grow up, because the children have adapted to it. The children today are learning, and that's what we tried to do with Krayon. So the Krayon Studio concept, and we're doing the first session today, the idea was, how do you bring the best talents learning to the classroom? So if a school has a dance teacher, the dance teacher probably teaches, say, Western dance, but the guy doesn't know how to do Indian dance. And the dance teacher is very good with Bharatanatyam, the dance teacher might not know Mohiniyattam or Kuchipudi. Right? So not all schools, I don't think any school can afford all kinds of talent teachers. So the schools should learn to now offer the physical classes with the existing teachers, whether it is a cricket master or it is a Bharatanatyam or an art teacher. The other skills can be offered to them through the online medium. And I think even today, schools believe teaching means my teacher should teach my children. And that's the concept.
And you should pay me more for that.
Well, I'm not going to debate on that because that's a huge debate already happening in the country. But
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. This is another article that I've written years ago, which was called as "Coaching Classes: A Lost Opportunity for Schools." Right? Think about this, Sharad. That if you ask a school, which is 100-year-old, and every year 100 students pass out, in a 100-year history, only 10,000 school students they've impacted. Think about it. You know why? Because the schools believe that only the students that wear their uniform, got an admission, paid their fees, only they are their students. Whereas the one who is, just outside the school wall, there is a jhugi jhopri, those kids are not my kids. How do I teach them? And suddenly, all of those left outs because you didn't get a seat in the good schools, the only way that they could manage to get a piece of that school was by going to a coaching class. बिकॉज वो कॉलेज का प्रोफेसर मैथ पढ़ा रहा है एटलीस्ट कॉलेज नहीं तो प्रोफेसर की क्लास मिल जाएगी वो स्कूल का टीचर केमिस्ट्री पढ़ा रहा है दैट्स हाउ वी ऑल स्टार्टेड इन द 80s and 90s we started going to those coaching tuition teachers right some of the tuition teachers became very entrepreneurial and they said why should I even go to school let me only run the tuition and then voila you became the Akash and the Alan sir and this Agarwal sir and all of those sirs. And then now you've got this one sir who's got money from all over the world and telling the world this is how education is. But think about it, schools should have been doing this. Schools missed out on another opportunity over here because even today, I believe all schools are only looking inwards with digital education and not outwards. So with Krayon as a studio, as the platform, what we've done is we're not saying that we're going to teach you everything. Worked around for a long time in our life, so very well connected in this country. So I told my team, let's tie up with the best. So Dance with Madhuri and Terence Lewis Dance School is going to teach dance. Roshan Abbas's Commune will talk about speaking because they are one of the best in the country. Jaipur Literature Festival's Kahani will talk about literature activities. A.R. Rahman's music school and Subramaniam's music school will be doing music for the children. So what we did was we started off by tying up with the big partners to begin with. But the future of studio is going to be that, neighborhood auntie who's phenomenal with teaching music, but she cannot teach more than her own locality girls. Now that same neighborhood auntie can teach music to some school child in Kashmir or in Kanyakumari. So that's what studio would do. It's going to be a marketplace for talent, learning for children and for the the professionals. It can be a space where they can come and teach. So so the digital piece is what we try to leverage on. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, here's the next question for you, Sharad. You watch movies?
Yeah, I've watched a few movies. I'm not a movie buff, but yeah, I've watched a few movies.
You're aware that I make movies and I
spend a lot of time
watching good movies. So the other part of Krayon, and that's the last part before we take some questions from the audience, is the fact that we've also brought the film festival online. Again, 3 research papers on why children should watch international films. And who better than you to talk about this one point? Of course, they learn languages. Of course, they learn world cultures. 2 of the biggest change makers on our planet. Number 1 is technology. Number 2 is migration and movement of people. You studied in Boston. You were one of the rarities who came back to India, immediately after college and not worked there for 10, 20 years before most Indians come back, right? But most of us have absolutely no idea. In a class of 40, 10 to 15 of them will not live in India. In some cities, 20 to 30 of them will not be in the state or the country. They will be outside the country. So schools need to be preparing children for not, and sometimes when I know about these facts, I feel language debates are stupid because you're still talking about Kannada and Tamil and different languages, whereas our children are going to be global citizens. And a great way to expose children is to good world cinema, and that's what we've done through the IKFF. So my question to you is, how does a school prepare a child for the bigger world? Because somehow schools tend to believe that the world is in Patna or, at best the child will go to Delhi. I think that's what they think if it is a school in Patna. But how do you think, with your experience and having dealt with both the world outside and with schools, how do schools prepare children for the larger world, the bigger world?
I think that's a wonderful question, and I think I'll take a couple of minutes to answer it. Um, One of if you see the theme that the questions have been around the past 2, 3 questions, if we really look at it, it is about how the school sees a student, and that is very important to keep in mind. The student is not your client, not necessarily your client. If in the if in the most ethical business term, if you want to see that yes, my client is somebody who I really need to serve, in that case, then if you call the student a client, good enough. But the student is not a client. The student is a responsibility for the school. 6 a.m. in the morning, if parents come and leave their child, drop them off at the school, that child is your responsibility. Every morning, a parent is waking up and preparing that kid, dropping that kid off at school. And then there are some who send their kids to boarding schools. Schools need to see, and I commend every school that sees the child as an asset for the nation, as an asset for the society and for the world. That sort of a mindset needs to be there. I, in 2017, delivered a TED talk saying that the next prime minister is in a classroom today. And how would you teach that child any differently if you realized that child is the next prime minister? Every question that we have, every problem that we quote, these children who are going to be future doctors, engineers, diplomats all across the world, they are right there in your classroom. And what is it that you wish you taught them? Is it independent thinking? Is it critical thought? Is it research, communication, leadership, empathy, fearlessness, public service, nation building, whatever it is? And for that reason, we need to start seeing our children as future leaders, as change makers, as people who will actually take the world a little more forward. That is what every generation has done. One generation, set the wheel rolling. The other generation, probably several generations later, iron and fire and all those things that we look at. There was a generation that fought against dictatorships. There was a generation that came up with new vaccines. Each generation has a responsibility, that the planet bestows on them, whether it is curing a few more diseases or making our planet greener, lifting more people out of poverty. And that entire army of young people, ever since they are 5, 6, with all their creative energies, with all their passion, are there in your schools. And that is the reason why connecting them to opportunities becomes important. That is the reason why you cannot be selfish about your teachers or limited about your own students. That is the reason why you need to see and that is the reason why we cannot be limited to the geography where the child is living. You never know, your student is probably going to be, let's not talk about America right now, but probably that child will be in a state in South India and will be a DM then. These children need to be exposed to different cultures, different thoughts, different languages. And for that reason, we need to prepare young people who have two abilities. And we talk about it at Dexterity quite often, one is learning to learn, and the other one is learning to lead. Neither of these two things can be taught in a textbook manner. We need to build a culture within the school where children are always curious. They are learning to learn. They are learning how to self-teach themselves something, like an exposure to, Dance with Madhuri, as you were talking about, or these opportunities. We need to allow our children to learn, create atmosphere for that, create an experience where our children can learn. The second part is learning to lead. We need to stop telling our children that leadership is something that happens, the optics of leadership, 9 p.m. primetime television, people on our large screens, they alone are not leaders. In many cases, they are failed leaders. We need to teach our children that if you help a friend to learn something, if you write a letter for somebody who's in need, if you speak up for someone, you are a leader in that regard. So these two things, if we initiate, learning to learn and learning to lead, and create an atmosphere around our young people with exposure to languages, civilizations, culture, storytelling, whatever it may be, that allows a child to prepare himself or herself. Because nobody who claims that I am going to make a particular child something and then also quotes the end point probably has thought about children or education or learning or teaching. Because at the end of the day, the child is going on a fundamental path that the child feels, passionate about or drawn to. And I think schools have to facilitate that process. And that is the reason why somebody shutting their door on a Wizkid or a Dexterity or a young entrepreneur who's coming up now is dangerous. Because one school shutting its door basically means 2,000 kids within the school could have probably exposed themselves to a particular platform and unlocked a new interest or a passion or a hobby. And we need to value each one of those, because if we are unhappy with anything, it can be our city, it can be our country, it can be our world, remember that entire army of change makers, leaders, citizens, next door neighbors, they're all in our schools. And everything you wish they did differently, we can do that in school today, create an atmosphere and experience where they learn that and then they take it forward. So that is my larger remark on that. And that is something that I have picked and learned in Boston, in our small villages in Bihar, everywhere, that you need to be learning all the time. At Dexterity, we start off teaching our kids saying, know that you don't know. And these are things, and I think in many schools, we are very proud. Our children know everything. That needs to go away. Learning to learn, learning to lead, and the role of the school has to be to
that's a
facilitate.
problem because, I feel sad for schools and parents and children because I've seen generations now. If you were a cat's whiskers when you were in school, that is not what's going to make you successful in life. What makes you successful in life is actually doing things which are not given importance in schools, but they do happen in schools. It's just that it happens so little that there are some of them, like the Sharads, who latch on to it, look out for those opportunities and make the best of it, but not all children manage to do that. Sharad, that I'm just going to, juxtapose that into the next question. But what I heard you say very, very passionately is probably also a life story of mine where schools need to think beyond the textbook, the curriculum. We've spoken about it. And everybody's heard this. Actually, it's not difficult for them to do. In one of my podcasts, I'd given an example. It's like a young man going to the gym to work out. And every day he goes and works out only the right hand. And can you imagine how the kid is going to look after 1 year of working out in the gym? Left hand, he's never worked out. He's only worked out the right hand. Now imagine this kid for 14 years, 18 years, only working out the right hand. He's going to come out as a young man, absolutely lopsided with Salman Khan's right hand and Nawazuddin Siddiqui's left hand. Very lopsided personalities, and that's how our children are growing up. And I think I've been a part of the Chintan Shivir for the HRD ministry when the new national curriculum framework came out. My worry is not the framework. My worry is how the schools will interpret it. At the end of the day, sir, how do we evaluate this process? That's the only thing they always talk about. And I find it absolutely ridiculous that we have not yet, as educators, learned to accept visible evidence as evidence of learning. If I have a child in my class for a year and if the child is communicating better, is a little more friendly with children, somehow most schools, there are few exceptional schools in a few exceptional places, they've not figured out how to think and they always come back to the marks. So let me touch on the last question, and I'm open to receiving questions. I've seen a few, I'm going to pick them up as well. So requesting the audience, if you have any questions, just share them with me, and or Sharad can also read and pick up a few over the next 10 minutes and answer some of them. Sharad, the last one is education industry for the longest time, if I have to use the word industry, was quite stagnant till the early mid-2000s. There was not much movement. There was a first wave of education companies that came with the smart classes, promising that the education would change. You and I know a decade later, 15 years later, nothing changed. And that prompted me to write an article 10 years ago, The Teacher Killed the Smart Class. So none of the classes became smart. We are now witnessing another massive surge in companies that are pushing their wares. While I still run a tech company and I've been in Bangalore with a lot of tech and an engineer myself, but I never thought that coding was a life skill, which is more important than public speaking and handling stress and handling emotions and relating to people and being more creative. And today, an average parent seems to be more focused on that. So what's your take on this?
So I think my take on this has been consistent, and coding, is just part of the problem. It has been a stream, and that problem is that any industry in the world can be an industry of hope, or it can be an industry of fear. So an industry of hope is that you go into the gym hoping that you're going to be healthy one day. That too is turning into an industry of fear. An industry of fear is, oh, I need to have, these set of medicines, else I'm going to die, sort of a thing. Education in any country, no matter how poor the country is, how rich the country is, was always supposed to be an industry of hope. That this young child of yours is going to grow into a fine gentleman or a fine young lady with the best possible skills, a life for himself or herself, that sort of a thing. What we have done is, I was in Gujarat one time, I saw a large hoarding. It said, is your child missing out on 21st century skills? And I laughed. And somebody was with me in the car, and that person said, why are you laughing? I said, somebody's 5 lakh rupees is gone. So the person said, in the ad? So I said, no, after looking at the ad. The problem is, we are using education as an industry of fear. We are consistently telling people that, oh, is your child missing out on coding? Is your child missing out on this? Is your child missing out on that? And that is how we are trying to, sell things many times that people don't need with a basic, push that basically says you don't even know. And it is true in many cases that sometimes you do not know what you need. But this industry of fear, that is allowing a lot of people to build companies literally around fear. And I think somewhere technology is somewhere in that space. Now, learning to learn part that I was talking about, that is consistent. We need to, teach our kids technology, and there's no problem with that. But telling our 4-year-old child or 6-year-old child or 8-year-old child, after having sold a package worth 80,000 rupees, that Bill Gates learned coding at the age of 13. If your child does not learn coding at the age of 13, your child is gone. For Bill
Not
Gates,
13, Sharad. You got your facts wrong. 6.
6. So here's basically, so I'm going to use the same example. When Bill Gates was learning coding, it was out of self-interest, it was out of curiosity, it was at an atmosphere where the Moms Club at, Salt Lake High, Seattle High or Salt Lake High, one of the school where Bill Gates, Seattle High, where Bill Gates' school, they had this mothers club, and they had bought a time-sharing terminal, a computer terminal where students could, spend some time. And they were all, having fun with the computer, and Bill Gates came up with the ideas that he did and learned coding and picked those things. Again, an atmosphere was created, an experience was created. He did not sign up for a coding class. The thing is, something of the future, 20 years down the line, 30 years down the line, that is something our kids will create. That is not something that will cater to them right now on a tray. And that is something we need to look at. So I see that largely as an industry of fear right now. And education should never be an industry of fear. It needs to be an industry of hope. And of course, when I was delivering my TED Talk, the core skills that our young people need to have to be future leaders, I remember the curator of the don't want to put technology in there. I said, if a child is a critical thinker, if that child knows how to do research, how to communicate, how to lead, of course that child is going to pick up technology. But somewhere we are trying to, portray it that, oh, technology is something that if that is taken care of, everything else is taken care of. Whereas there are a few very fundamental things like critical thought, leadership, expressing yourself, being more, interactive within the class and outside of it, that will automatically allow you to sometimes even have a conversation, ask somebody, oh, what all are you working on? And somebody can be working on, slam poetry and somebody else on coding. And you can very gladly have conversations and pick those things up. Are we creating that kind of an atmosphere? That is something that we need to ask ourselves. One quick point I'll add, and then I'll sum it up. Like that is the sum up point. There's a problem with how we see technology, and that is we believe that medicine is great, telemedicine is greater. We believe shopping is great, online shopping is greater. And that is the reason why somewhere I have a feeling we are thinking now, education is great, online education is greater. Just because online, tele, or e is prefixed to a word, that just does not make it automatically better. Now, you were talking about digital education, and I really wanted to add, the delivery of education has changed from a classroom to, a technology platform. What we do need to understand and acknowledge and begin to embrace is same 200-year-old classroom-style delivery may or may not work when it comes to a digital interface. What we have tried to do is, we said education, shift to online education. Perfect. Put a camera in front of the teacher and let the teacher teach on the same blackboard without any feedback from students. Let's continue to do that. No, we need to change the way that two-way engagement happens. We need to make sure that technology is a very powerful tool. We really embrace it and we use it to the best manner, like we use it to our advantage. Because otherwise I'm seeing that somewhere that oh, telemedicine is better than medicine, online shopping is better than shopping, online education has to be better than education. That may
Yeah,
or may not be
I
true.
think the whole idea of looking at technology not as something which is superior to everything else is something that we need to highly remember that because
It's an
today I
enabler.
know for a fact that even the best of technology companies like the Googles and the Apples of the world are not necessarily onboarding people from a technical background. They're looking for arts and humanities and psychology because these guys build better solutions for humans than the ones who are skewed technically. So it's been brilliant, and we can go on and on this way. And it's such a pleasure to have had this chat with you. There's a question I'm going to just answer a couple of questions. Actually, most of them are around how do you participate in Wizkids? Very, very simple. Just download the Krayon app and you will get to know everything. It's available on Android already, and I'm hoping that it should be on iOS in the next few days. iOS always gives you a delayed launch. On the other hand, you can also have your school participating. If you're participating, you will end up paying your individual fees, but a school can buy a school's license and give all children an opportunity. What's the other question? Do you have to pay anything to access? No, Krayon is a free to download app. You can learn anything that's there to learn, especially in studio. Is all going to be free for you. If you have to watch the film festival or participate in the Wizkids, that's when you will share. But we will get all of those details. Don't even worry about it. Just download the Krayon app. Those details are available for you on it. Any other question that I have? Okay, Sharad, this is more of a, not a question, but I think it's more of can we have, what class is that? Explore. So Hariom says that, I don't know, can we add one extra curriculum in our academics, explore yourself? Sharad, your take on it, but before that, it's not one extra subject. The meaning of education has to be explore yourself. Go ahead, let me hear your response.
See, some things are an overarching theme, like that is something more like an umbrella thing. I was recently speaking on NEP, and somebody was asking me, should we change? I need to be hooked on Instagram again. Yeah. So.
I just stopped that. I think it's been an hour. So
okay, perfect.
Continue a couple of questions.
Yeah, this is actually much better. So I was addressing this NEP thing, and I think somebody said, should we change our education policy every 4 years because technology changes? I said, you see, technology is a very small thing when it comes to education, and it is going to be incorporated within it, and there is room for that to continue changing and evolving. It is about the overarching themes. What is the meta level thing? So again, explore yourself cannot be one class. It cannot be the 8th period in school or 9th period in school. It has to be throughout every single period in school and during the lunch break and in the playground. You continue to explore, you continue to have conversations. So it's as simple as, can we have one class for thinking? No, our children have to think in every single class. Yes, of course, there can be, some added impetus on how, you continue to think, the importance of critical thinking stuff is that there can be a conversation around it separately, but you cannot, not think in your English class, but think in your math class, not explore in your history class, but explore in your science class. So these are things that are going to be there. And that is the reason why it is important to understand school education is not A plus B, that is school plus college. It is not an addition of certain structures that the society has been successful in making over the past few centuries. Education, even when there were no schools, no colleges, education was happening. And tomorrow there might be no schools and no colleges, and education will still happen. And that is something from a parent perspective, a policymaker perspective, an educator perspective, and student perspective, we must keep in mind that if there were no schools and colleges, how would I structure my own education? And that is something and that is the reason why learning to learn, it goes back to that particular thing. So
absolutely.
that is actually what
there's a prediction, Sharad. I used to be a part of the MIT Solve for 3 years, and we used to do a lot of thinking and research papers. I predict that higher education, in an organized form that it is, as universities, will not exist. More than 50% universities are going to shut down over the next decade. Schools will only be relevant if they teach children to explore themselves, make them know better. If they're only going to teach math and science, then the online education is going to kill you. So if you're a school and if you're a part of a school, good morning, you need to wake up. You can't just teach math science because online can probably teach as well as your teachers ever could. So, but online can never give you the experience of, walking down the corridor or, having lunch with your friends or being a part of that theater or a debate club. Couple of questions for you. One is Palak Kumar asks a question. Sharad, I'll ask you to answer that and then I'll answer quickly. Would the digital Wizkids have the same impact as the on-ground Wizkids?
I think that's a brilliant question. And that is the reason why I was saying education and online education are not necessarily the same. A lot of thought needs to go in. I think how well thought, and I am glad that Sultan sir mentioned it at the beginning, Wizkids is not going digital because COVID happened. There has been a lot of thought that has been put in. There have been a lot of processes. It's a very carefully thought out process. And if you really look at it, there could have been a very skeptic question 20 years back that 3,000 kids in one auditorium, are they all going to have some learning of their own? And that happened because that sort of an experience was created. I think creating experiences is the most important part, whether it is in a classroom or in an auditorium or a stadium. You love a cricket match, you love a soccer game because of the experience that it creates. You are not the guy taking the penalty corner or hitting that free kick. But in that moment, the experience that is created, you begin to enjoy that. That is something we need to do in our classrooms. We need to do it at our competitions, contests, online learning platforms. And the experience part, I think Krayon, and Sultan sir especially, he's been in the business of creating experiences for young people like me for almost the age that I am at. For those many years, he's been doing it. So I think that the online platform is very beautifully curated. It is very secure as well, keeping in mind, and that is where I'm talking about.
And I think that's important. The security part is so important for us.
Exactly, and that's the reason why I mentioned it. That a lot of thought has gone into the process. And so that is the reason why I have a feeling that online Wizkids will not just, continue to thrive, contribute, and engage you in a better manner. Because I remember one thing that my friends used to say back in the day was, every week there should be at least one Wizkid sort of a thing. Now, every day there can be a Wizkid sort of a thing because you have it on your phone or an iPad or a tablet, whatever you're using. So I am very confident and I'm very positive about it. Next part is, remember, the best part of the Wizkids experience, after 99% hard work has been done, that 1% part almost becomes 100%. That is when young people join in. They add to that experience in an absolutely beautiful manner. You cannot begin to quantify or qualify that. So I have deepest faith, and I get to work with young people day in and day out. When everybody joins, it's going to be, a one show. Whether you're competing, learning, whatever you're doing, it's going to be tremendous. So I'm very confident about online Wizkids creating an equally better experience. And the best part is everyday experience. So this is going to be great.
You said it beautifully. I'm not going to add too much to it, but yes, we've spent a lot of time, energy, and efforts. It can never replace that feeling of being in an, SK Memorial or a Science City or, in Kamarajarangam, or being in St. Andrews or Siri Fort in Delhi. It will never replace that, but it will give opportunities to students who have never been in these events, because they would never get those opportunities because of the lack of opportunity in smaller towns and villages. This can happen now more often. Wizkids happen only once a year. Krayon now allows it to happen many more times. So there are the advantages. The future is going to be phygital. That's what I use. It's going to be physical and digital. We will continue to have the physical events in future and have a blend of both the physical and the digital one. So yes, so I would love for all of you to just go there and download the Krayon app. It's the first year. It's normally people have betas. We've done that beta in-house. Go out there, participate in it, learn from it, contribute to it. Please write to us in case you feel there are any things that we could add or improve. Because that's what's gone on to make Wizkids one of the legendary events that it has been, and I hope and pray that Krayon also becomes that. And for all the other questions that you have, I'm going to ask my team to share some thoughts with you and some responses to that. Sharad, let's wind up. It's dinner time for
sure. You were going to share a secret why I was invited.
Yes.
Yesterday you
And
promised
the
me.
reason why I shared that, I mean, that the reason why I wanted to get you on board, Sharad, I live in a world today where the heroes happen to be someone that I wouldn't even want to have sit down and have a conversation with. Whether it is in politics, whether it is in showbiz, even in a lot of times in education, there are people, I don't think they're worth my time to even spend 5 or 10 minutes because of the shallowness of those people. Shallow is in, flimsy and ridiculous talent is in, it's propagated, it's supported, it's encouraged. Hate is encouraged. Selfishness is encouraged. And that's the world I live in. And the reason why I chose you was because you've chosen a path of selflessness, you've chosen a path of genuineness, and you've chosen a path which may or may not give you all the luxuries which people aspire for, but you've chosen to make this world a better place by working with kids. And that's the reason why I thought that, it makes my work and my journey and my life worthwhile having inspired people like you. And that's the reason why I chose you. Very proud of what you've achieved. And, I hope and pray that you have good health, a long life, because I believe that people like you and whenever I look back, I feel that the reason why I walked so far in life is because we knew what we wanted to do very early. So we could walk a very long distance and impact a lot more lives. So I hope and pray that you continue to do this wonderful work. And my biggest prayer for you would be to consistently remain genuine and focused in the way you've been so far. It's been a pleasure, Sharad.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Good luck to you in all that you do in your future. I've seen you as a
Thank you.
Wizkid.
Thank you to everybody who joined.
Entrepreneur. It's a proud moment for me. And it's great. And I think it's been a great beginning for Krayon Studio.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to everybody who's joined on Facebook. Thank you for all your comments, all your love. It's been great. And make sure you go ahead and enjoy and have the experience on Krayon. Just like as young high school students, middle school students, we had it. Can I add a 1-minute thing if it is not a significant breach of time? This is for everybody. I was in middle school probably at that point when I first saw a Wizkids poster in my school. And the process was very simple, but nobody was able to participate. But I still went to the auditorium, 2004 this was, and the registration had not been done. Registration used to close 2 days early for Wizkids. So I just stayed there. I saw Sultan sir on stage. I came back. I decided one day I'm going to come back and participate because before IPL came, because IPL for everyone was like IPL just revolutionized cricket and it added like entertainment was there and so much opportunities opened up. It was like an IPL for young kids. And very few people, if you look at it, care for our kids in that way. So I looked at it and I was like, I want to come in and participate. 2005, the poster also didn't show up on our bulletin board in school. 2006 was the first time. And 2006, I was talking to my principal. When the Wizkids letter comes, can you please give it to me? So I want to participate. I want to build a team. So 2006, I built a team of close to 200 students. And we went and we participated. I went till the finals and I lost in the finals. But the Wizkids participation certificate that I received, I think had a Pierre Coubertin statement, the father of modern Olympics, and it was about participation. And it was a platform where, of course, winning was great, but the emphasis that was put on you and your individual journey and learning, everything was great. 2007, I go on to win. 2008, I win, and everything else. But the point that I wanted to add was that I put in significant effort from my school's end. I literally used to do each one of the paperwork that was important for us to, turn that in. Then 2007, my teacher, she got involved, and she was also very influenced with the Wizkids idea. And then the two of us, year after year, then we ensured that our school participated. So I hope that as young people, if your school is not participating in something, I hope you will take a leaf out of that. And as educators, let's try and make sure that nobody has to, go through the pains of building a team on his or like himself and then going ahead and participating. What is brilliant is now in Wizkids, you can also participate directly and your school can participate. But I really wanted to share this story because this is the story about Wizkids that nobody knows. 2004, I stood at SK Memorial,
That I
saw
didn't
it
know.
in 2006, built a team, came, lost, and then I continued. I knew that you didn't know. That's the reason why I wanted to add it. So for me, it's been 16 brilliant years.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much,
much.
Sharad, and may you continue to do
Thank
the
you.
great work. And for all of you who've tuned in, would love to see your support and encouragement. Spread the word because we tend to share a lot of WhatsApp forwards of some flimsy and some lousy stuff. Here's something good that you can share with schools and educators and especially children. This is something they love, they learn, and probably my aim and my team's aim is goes on to shape their life and nudges them to become better versions of themselves. So with this, we come to the end of our first Krayon Studio Live. It's been a pleasure, Sharad, chatting with you.
Same here.
Good luck to you and good luck to us for Crayons and Krayon Wizkids this year.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.